Good morning, everyone. It's January 30th, 2018. I'm Eric. I'm here at Zero Hedge. Amidst global warming hysteria, NASA scientists expect global cooling. This comes from Mike Shedlock via the Mish Talk. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, or AOC, as people like to call her, has been tripping out and she says that we only have 12 years until the end of the world. Of course, these people have been talking about climate for quite some time. Back when I was a kid, the forecast was global cooling, and they were trying to do everything they could to prevent the planet from cooling. But here we are 30 years later or more, and well, now they're saying the exact opposite. And this is why you should not really trust the experts, because a lot of these experts, if they go against the consensus, they will a lot of times lose their jobs. They will be ridiculed and mocked, so most of them just go along to get along. Let's get started here. This comes from NASA sees climate cooling trend thanks to low sun activity. We see a cooling trend, said Martin Mylenzak of NASA's Langley Research Center. High above Earth's surface, near the edge of space, our atmosphere is losing heat energy. Of course, if current trends continue, it could soon set a space-age record for cold. Now, I live in the South, and it's supposed to be much warmer than it's been here for the past 3 or 4 years, actually. The new data is coming from NASA's sounding of the atmosphere using broadband emission radiometry, or SABRE instrument, which is on board the space agency's thermosphere, ionosphere, mesosphere, energetics, and dynamics satellite. SABRE monitors infrared radiation from carbon dioxide and nitric oxide, two substances that play a vital role in the energy output of our thermosphere, the very top level of our atmosphere. The thermosphere always cools off during solar minimums. It's one of the most important ways the solar cycle affects our planet, said Mylenzak, who is the associate principal investigator for SABRE. The new NASA findings are in line with studies released by UC San Diego and Northumbria University in Great Britain last year, both of which predict a grand solar minimum in coming decades due to low sunspot activity. Both studies predicted sun activity similar to the Maunder minimum of the mid-17th to early 18th centuries, which coincided to a time known as the Little Ice Age, during which temperatures were much lower than those of today. If all this seems as if NASA is contradicting yourself, you're right, sort of. After all, NASA has reported last week that Arctic sea ice was at its 6th lowest level since measuring began. Isn't that a sure sign of global warming? All any of this proves is that we have, at best, a cursory understanding of Earth's incredibly complex climate system. So when mainstream media and carbon credit salesman Al Gore breathlessly warns you that we must do something about climate change, it's all right to step back, take a deep breath, and realize that we don't have the knowledge, skill, or resources to have much effect on the Earth's climate. So, they don't have enough data to say for sure anything. All they have are theories, right? Yet somehow, for some reason, when a member of the public puts forth a theory of any kind, they get ridiculed as a conspiracy theorist or something else. I just love how the sun gets right in my eyes at this time of day. Let's see, where did I live? Yeah, right. Incredibly complex systems. Alarmists take one variable, CO2, that is only a tiny part of extremely long cycles, and make projections far into the future based off of it. They're making projections without all of the variables. When I was in grade school, the alarmists were worried about global cooling. Amusingly, I recall discussing in science class the need to put soot on the Arctic ice to melt it, so that they could stop the advance of glaciers. The latest IPCC report, that's Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, said we have only 12 years left to save the planet. And of course, it triggered the usual frantic and ridiculous reactions. See her. NBC News offered this gem. A last-ditch global warming fix? A man-made volcano or volcanic eruption to cool the planet. Its article proclaimed, scientists and some environmentalists believe nations might have to mimic volcanic gases as a last-ditch effort to protect Earth from extreme warming. We're not going to have extreme warming because we are already in a solar minimum. Now, they want to continue their geoengineering programs that's been going on since mid-80s at least. And it is at our detriment that they do so. Remember, folks, they have soil-killing chemicals that they are spraying all over us. And if it kills the soil, then how are we going to grow food? Oh, I know. Monsanto has the answer to that, right? Just what we need. More Monsanto products. But from 1940 to 1980, the average global temperature went down. Political concerns and the alleged scientific consensus focused on global cooling. Alarmists said it could be the end of agriculture and civilization. Journalist Lowell Ponte wrote in his 1976 book, The Cooling, The problem then was, and still is now, that people are educated in the false philosophy of uniformitarianism. Holy shit, that was a mouthful. The misguided belief that conditions always were and always will be as they are now, and any natural changes will occur over long periods of time. And this, of course, is false. Natural changes can occur suddenly. Consequently, most people did not understand that the cooling was part of the natural cycle of climate variability, or that changes are often huge and sudden. Just 18,000 years ago, we were at the peak of an ice age. Then, most people of the ice melted. Then most of the ice melted and sea levels rose 150 meters or 490 feet because it was warmer for almost all of the last 10,000 years than it is today. During the cooling danger, geoengineering proposals included building a dam across the Bering Strait to block cold ice Arctic water, dumping black soot on the Arctic ice cap to promote melting, adding carbon dioxide, CO2, to the atmosphere to raise global temperatures. And of course, now they are saying the exact opposite. Global warming errs badly. To understand the great confusion about global warming or climate change, my most lucid guide has been Dr. Richard Lindzen, a former Alfred P. Sloan Professor of Meteorology at MIT and member of the U.S. National Academy of Sciences, and his now famous lecture for the Global Warming Policy Foundation last October 8th. In just a number of segments of his lecture, Dr. Lindzen crystallized for me why the Church of Global Warming errs so badly in its dogma. Global warming promoters fostered the popular public perception of the science of climate change as quite simple. It is that here's one phenomena to be explained: global average temperature, which, says Lindzen, is a thoroughly unscientific concept. And there's one explanation for it: the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere. And that line of thinking is utterly false. It cannot only be one thing. There are too many variables for it to be one thing. Most people readily confused whether with climate and think whether phenomena are driven by climate phenomena. They aren't. See, they butchered that sentence. Consequently, as Lindzen, that's the doctor, says, the current popular narrative concerning this system is this: the climate, a complex multi-factor system, can be summarized in just one variable, the global average temperature change, and is primarily controlled by the 1 or 2% perturbation in the energy budget due to a single variable, carbon dioxide, among many variables of comparable importance. So they're ignoring all the other variables and focusing on a single one. this is a rather lengthy article, so I'm going to go ahead and not cover the whole thing, but I'm going to skip the next few and go right down here to bombarded with garbage. Of course, you did not know that unless you follow NASA, Real Clear Markets, or What's Up With That. Meanwhile, everyone is constantly bombarded with total garbage, like Al Gore's claim migrant caravans are victims of global warming. And of course, the media is fawning all over AOC's new Green Deal hype, as she too is a believer the world will end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. The Guardian and The Intercept are both happy to promote this nonsense, as, of course, the entirety of mainstream media. Bottom line is, one variable among hundreds of them cannot be responsible for what they claim. Now, there is a force that is altering the orbits of many of the planets in our solar system. I would be willing to bet that that same force has something to do with our sun cycles. And our sun cycles, of course, have everything to do with our climate. If there's no sun activity, our climate's going to be colder. If there's a lot of sun activity, our climate's going to be hotter. Anyway, thought I would share this with you because these assholes are pushing this shit hardcore, like gun confiscation, and it's just a matter of time before they enact some kind of legislation that criminalizes yet another human activity. Hope everyone has a great day. Remember, kill the state, live free.